You're listening to the Live from the Caribbean podcast, the show that brings the stories of island people making a global impact, with your host, Pauline Joseph.
Welcome to Live from the Caribbean, and Pauline here with Engel. Engel, introduce yourself.
Feels as though I need to stand at attention or at ease. So my hands are behind my back right now. Imagine that. And I'm saying, my name is Engel Jones. I'm a podcaster. I'm from Trinidad and Tobago, born and bred. And it feels militant to do that, Pauline. But yeah, I think that best represents me in a snippet.
Okay, so let us know a little bit more about who Engel is. When you say you're a podcaster, what does that mean? What do you do exactly?
So I have conversations with people and record them similarly to what we're doing right now, creating a conversation that doesn't just stay between the interviewer, if you would, or the lead of the conversation and the person who is being spoken to, myself currently. So the good thing is Pauline is the host of this, so she records it and then shares it via different mediums. iTunes is the medium we use, and Google Play, and that was created by this great guy called Steve Jobs, right, of Apple. That's where podcasting, I think, was really amplified, if you would, because there were people creating RSS feeds before, just to be a bit technical and sound very, very nerdy, if you would, because I'm a nerd by nature. But yeah, the thing that I do is have conversations, and I share those conversations, which are with all types of people from all over the world. And the core of the conversation is really to identify what I believe that each person has within them, the opportunity to create a brand of your own unique real self. And I've now had thousands of those conversations, thankfully.
So would you say that you're just simply a radio host? Because that's what that sounds like.
Yeah, you could say that, right? Like I'm hacking being a radio host because I do not have as much gear as a radio station requires, and I'm not on the public domain via the public radio station, right? Yeah, but from a modern perspective, Pauline, this thing is huge. Americans are now installing the podcast app on the players by default in the cars that are being manufactured. So, yeah, it's a lot like radio on demand, I would say, the podcast concept.
So, okay, so I also want to put a disclosure for those listening. Engel and I actually met on LinkedIn. And wow, that was what, 4 or 5 months ago? How long ago was that? I think it was 2018. So let's head back to you. Like, how did you end up here? How did you end up with being a podcaster?
There was this life story where I got into debt. Not a ton of debt, but I had some debt. I never liked the thing, right? But I had some debt, and the company that I was working for went into strike action, and it was supposed to be for a couple of days. Unfortunately, it went for 3 months, or probably even fortunately, according to how you look at it, because that was really the incubator for what I encountered from a guy called Dave Ramsey, which was to get out of debt. And what was happening is, while I was digesting the information from reading on work, I learned about the podcast that he has. So I was listening to this while working, and it's that type of job. And that's something else with podcasting. It's something that people usually are doing. They're usually listening to it while they're doing something, because it's not music that's blasting, it's one voice. So you tend to have it at a nice volume where you could safely do things while working. And I was oh gosh, 3 hours a day listening to this concept of financial advice being given live on a radio program. He does 3 hours every day, Monday to Friday.
Wow.
Right? And he's syndicated on how many ever radio stations by now. But what he does is take the 3 hours he does on the radio and then spits it out onto a podcast in 3 hour gaps, right? So you have 3 episodes. And I was listening to this, and you're learning a ton. And then there was this other guy called Johnny Dumas who had a podcast. And I was marveled by the fact that this guy was doing an average of 250,000, anywhere from 200 to 300,000 US dollars per month from his podcast. As what? And of course, in Trini, we convert, right? So now it's 7 to 1. So we're talking about over $1 million a month. So I was fascinated by that and started. He interviewed entrepreneurs. So the name of his podcast is Entrepreneur on Fire. Go check it out. And I wanted what he had, or what he developed. So I'm very competitive. But I think I exercise wisdom because Dave Ramsey is how many tens of thousands of episodes because he's by 3 every day. But Johnny Dumas was doing 1 a day. And I set up in my mind, I said, well, if I could interview as many people as he has interviewed, then I could develop that skill that he has had. And I set this goal to have 1,585 conversations in 1 year, which he had over the course of 3 years.
Wow.
And that's where I really jumped into podcasting. Now, Pauline, quick note, like before I even did this podcast, 12-Minute Convos, I was doing a podcast, developing it called The Jonesy Money Show. And I was mimicking Dave Ramsey to the T. And that, I did 1 episode. And when I listened to it, I was no. Right. And again, that just speaks full circle to understanding who you are as an individual and understanding your own unique real strengths before you get out onto the mic. And I'm not saying that for those that are listening, do not do that. Like, don't get onto the mic unless you have your voice, because the mic actually helps you develop your voice. And when I say the mic, I'm referring to everything that encompasses, which is speaking to others, listening to others. It helps develop your voice.
So how long have you been doing podcasting? You said that, it came out of debt, but how long has it been now?
It's been just over 3 years. Yeah, March 2016, I launched my first episode, March the 31st, because I didn't want it to be on April 1st, right? In Trini, that's April Fool's, right? So March 31st, I launched, and, I've been going since then.
Pauline here to let you know about AC Marketing. I was going to do this whole hurrah, and we do global brands and we access the Caribbean market, but I was just like, you don't care. But I have to do this for my accountant. So yeah, if you do care, go to acmarketingcaribbean.com. If not, just keep listening to the podcast. That's it.
So let's just jump over to the personal side of Engel, right? You're doing this podcasting thing, and you have life going on in the background. What does that look like? What are you doing now for fun? What's the fun side of Engel?
Yeah, it's funny you said fun, right? Because the mission is Sun and Fun, and the acronym represents sharing unique narratives. That's the Sun part. And the fun part is fostering unlimited networks. I love networking. Definitely that's how Pauline and I met, because she obviously either loves it or sees the value in it. And I think she loves it from what I've seen, right? But that is the fun part, the networking for me. That's what connects the dots, right? So the podcast is actually the fun piece for me. It's been the fun, and I'm like the digital nomad. I'm like the person who is comfortable with not going out now, because virtually I'm going out there, but of course there needs to be the balance. So I get to have fun virtually and in the face-to-face space as well. Traveling and meeting others, and that's where the podcast actually evolved, where we got to go across the U.S., North America, right? So you could just say we went across North America, which is the U.S. and Canada, over a 12-week period, 80 days. Yeah, we were able to go across the 48 states and Canada in 80 days. So I think, is that the type of answer you want for that question, or is it more of like I jump around the place like you in triathlons?
Well, just track back, yes, I do enjoy meeting people and networking. I grew up with 5 other siblings, so to be around people is all I know.
Yeah.
And as somebody who works behind a computer, it's kind of like when I see people like, oh my God, there are others. They're outside. So yes, I do enjoy it. But yeah, in regards to having fun, your work is definitely something you enjoy. You can hear it through the podcast. But like me, I am like triathlon is something that I need to survive because there are times when even the fun part of the job is no longer fun. And you have that passion that keeps you going. So what's keeping you going outside of the podcast? Oh, that's a hard question.
No, it's not a hard question. It's just a loaded question.
Oh, geez.
Yeah. So there's a balance that I seek in my life, and having fun is something that could be weighed outbalanced. So fun in my life is really seeking balance. So there's this concept that we live around, which is the balance of mental, spiritual, career, physical, financial, personal, and family. And it's really maintaining balance around those pillars, those 7 pillars. That's the thing that keeps me going, Pauline, because Amanda, my wife, recently came up with something. It's an acronym for wealth, and it stands for when essential action leads to happiness. And essential action isn't something you happen to run across, right? Like, I'm going to do a triathlon, for example, and I get up in the morning, right? And I say, right, it's time for the triathlon, and I'm not prepared. Essential action is the preparation for such. And I would categorize what I'm doing into those pillars as the thing that keeps me going.
Okay, so do you go running with 5Ks? Do you go running?
So I'm a runner. Yeah. So 3 children. Yeah, I'm not running after them much, but yeah, I run. But
you
walking,
do? I didn't know that. Why didn't you tell me that? I don't come down and we could do a little running session, discover stuff.
That's good. Well, you could come, but from your pictures, I could drive and you could run. But no, running is one of the things, but I'm boiling back now. So what I do is walk. I'm walking a lot. Every day I'm walking for sure. Like walking is an early morning walking, and deep breathing with walking as well is something. Yeah, that's one of the keys to maintaining that balance, and meditating as well, and reading. Those are the things that help me to, I think, keep my sanity.
Where are you doing this walking? Because I feel like Trinidad doesn't have enough pavements. Maybe they have more in South. Please explain.
We walk around our home actually, and so we live on a hill, and it's not that steep, but it's steep. Your butt muscles hurt, so we're up the hill, around the house, and down again, and we're doing that while having conversation. So it's like a walking meditation. And you have children. If you do not find times for investing in your relationship, it gone. It have none. It was something we learned pretty early on.
Well, I'm taking notes for when I have either one, child or partner.
Well, I've interviewed a ton of people. One of the questions we ask, do you have children? And a lot of people immediately go to, no, but I have pets. And I'm sure you learn a set of things with your cats and stuff.
Patience with my cat. Like, I've had to have so much patience, and I know that I'm going to be an amazing partner to somebody.
There we go.
So, but also I've had, growing up, I have 5 other siblings, 4 of them younger, and I had to take care of them when I was younger. So I know how to change a diaper, which apparently is not a life skill, I was told.
Well, really, it's like Michelle Obama saying the president's wife is not a job. It's like, what?
Yeah. It's just like this perception when you're outside of it. It's just like, what? People do those things? Because to me, I thought everybody knew how to change a diaper, but apparently not.
Hey, Pauline here. Thank you so much for reaching this far in the podcast. I am here to let you know about Microsoft 365. as a small business owner, it's extremely hard to juggle so many things between the sales and management of the team and banks. Oh my goodness, I am overwhelmed at times. But with Microsoft 365, I feel confident that their cloud solution helps my business. Not just from a productivity perspective, because I can actually track my team and what they're doing, but also from a bottom line perspective, because let's be honest, right? We're in this business for profit. And to be able to say, I don't have a rent expense, whew, I am happy to see my invoice at the end of the month from Microsoft. So check it out, Microsoft 365.
So let's go back into the world of business and head to talk about money, right? So when we first met each other, you were working full-time and doing podcasting on the side. But now you are full-time, correct?
Yes, you're very correct.
So what's the management there in terms of how you're making money from podcasting?
One of the things that I didn't talk about in our conversation thus far is the entrepreneurial side of who I am. And the entrepreneurial side is getting to business to make money. And I did that for I think, most of my life I was doing entrepreneurship as a child, because my father is this entrepreneur who worked as well and sideline, he's on the hustle. So I learned entrepreneurship from a tender age. And it so happened that in having conversations, there were a ton of opportunities I saw in the space, specifically services. Yeah, services is something that we offer on the sideline. So book cover deals is one of our child projects where we develop book covers. And let me put that back. So book cover deals is makeovers for book covers, right? That's our mission there. And it still marvels me that I'm able to sell something that's digital, right? We never touch it. We don't have to mail it physically, and there are no shipping or handling fees on it. So but getting to the point, that's one of the ways we make money. There's also pod edits.
So before I head into pod edits, I have a question. You say book covers, right? And I need you to elaborate more.
Yeah.
Because a lot of folks out there might think, okay, you buy a book off the shelves in like a physical book, as well as you have the book covers on Kindle. So when you talk about book covers, are you talking about the graphic work? Do you come up with the idea? What's the process there?
Yeah. So what happened is when Amanda was doing her first book, we went to this site. And I'm not sure if I should say it because then I'm promoting them. No, but we went to 99 Designs, right? And we developed a book cover there. And what happened is they are developing the graphics for the graphic work for the book. But if you look on bookshelves of what we've produced locally and what's produced on an international level, you can quickly determine or differentiate which is local and which is on an international level. And that was something that I didn't want to have. So after going through that process, that's what we, and I'm talking about years after, right? That's what we were able to then develop. So the book covers, when I say book covers, folks, we're developing the artwork for the book covers, but there's so much more that goes with that now, right? Now we are we're publishing your book then. We're getting your written work onto Amazon, which is one of the places you can get your book printed, or you can have the Kindle version. We do that as well. Or you can have it printed externally. So we're developing that for you, and then you can take that and order your book, which is great. Yeah, I have tons of books in front of me now.
Right. So you're talking about podcast editing,
right? And again, so pod edits is something where, again, service oriented. We're developing podcasts for other individuals. So we'll edit the podcast. That's one thing. There's the coaching consultant, coaching/consulting block as well, where a person needs to develop their podcast in terms of the questions. And that's where the coaching/facilitating side as well comes with our accountability groups that we've developed, where we're helping individuals in groups or individually, understand how they can develop what I call the breadcrumbs of your past to help show you to where you could be or your voice. And that's the yours block, right?
Okay.
Your own unique real self. So that's the facilitating. I dislike coaching from the point of branding what I'm doing here. I think it's more facilitating a conversation in that, right? But if you want, you can just like Pauline does the metaphors, like when she said, "What did you say?" That's just like radio announcing, right? Yeah, it's where we coach individuals, if you want to generalize it, to help them understand that uniqueness and how that can transfer into business blocks.
So would you call yourself, because there's a lot of different elements.
There's another business, there's just like other businesses as well, right? So so 𝐷𝐷𝐷𝐷 Enterprise is the name of our company, and Hope, we give hope is our vision, and helping that hope stands for helping others pursue excellence. Wow. So I started in-house, right? And I developed my mother as a brand. And believe me, if you can help your mother develop as a brand, like call me. If you've done it before, call me now. Please now, right? My number is, I'm joking. And then I worked with Amanda, my wife. And if you've done that as well, please call me.
Oh, wow. And, that is amazing. I can't even spend 2 days with my mother without an argument. So I think that is worthy of an audience, really, to be quite honest. That is a class you should create all on its own on Udemy, to be quite honest.
I appreciate that, yeah. So she's a gospel singer, and we did an album for her and everything that went with the album. So we're looking at the music side, the artist promotion side, and Amanda, my wife, is a writer. So she actually wrote 11 of the 12 songs on that album. And then Amanda's brand is another brand I developed. And again, she simplifies with like medical situations with rhymes. All right. So she's done a ton of books as well. And she also has something called Rhyming Bible Bubbles. That is her new thing, right? So we've developed that as well. So there's another company that we've just launched, and that company is Creative Fellows, and that's been launched in the Philippines. That business we're doing things like illustrations and 3D rendering and 3D animations. So that's another business model as well. It's really just to show the value that has come from understanding who I am and then having a conversation. Please understand that my working at the company that I was working for is what helped fund all of this. I'm working at the company, I'm taking the money, and I'm investing it in the ability to do these things with the goal of, let's see what comes about. And it comes back to Zig Ziglar saying, help enough other people get what they want, and you'll get what you want. Now, some people look at that isn't that like a hidden agenda thing? No, it's actually, for me, the understanding that when you help others, it helps clarify who you are. And when that is clear, you go to China to run a triathlon.
Yes. Yes, it was clear. It was extremely clear. To everybody else, it seemed, not everybody, but to most people, it seemed crazy. But when you see and know who you are, especially when you put yourself in a position that is foreign and it's unlikely that you would be in that same position at home, you really see who you truly are. So yes, I could definitely understand.
Hey, it's Pauline here to let you know about Regis. They have an amazing team in the Caribbean. They've been helping LinkedIn Local Caribbean from inception with locations in Trinidad, Barbados, Jamaica, and Guyana. I can assure you that is the place to go. As a small business owner, it's so important to have an alternative space outside of my home because the walls are closing in. Go check them out and tell them Pauline sent you.
So would you say that you name quite a few different elements of your business, but who is the core of your audience? Where do they reside? What do they look like?
Yeah, the U.S. And there's something Mommy taught us she said, the prophet is without words in his own tongue or country. And I said, well, if that is what it is, well, better I go out of town or out of country, right? And develop. So it's really remarkable. Our listeners are various ages because I do not only interview entrepreneurs or a niche. I interview a ton of entrepreneurs though. However, across age groups that are far and wide. So the oldest person I've had on there is my grandmother. She was 95 when I interviewed her, I think, right?
Wow.
And it varies, up to the youngest person was probably a teenager, also an entrepreneur. So it really spans far and wide. And the podcast isn't developed from the perspective that's taught where individuals say, hey, well, develop your audience and have this set audience. That was something I stepped away from, targeting those who would listen to the individual that I interviewed. Yeah. So we have tremendous spikes in our podcast, and that goes in alignment with who we're interviewing, and I'm saying we because I have a team that helps me with this, right? Like they're editing, they're getting the guests on the podcast. So the team helps with that. So that's why I'm saying we. But again, we have been able to have downloads and the stats are there. I really stay away from the stats, Pauline. Really, really. But sometimes I go peeking, right? And you get to see the map and you see how many places people are listening to the podcast. And it's really remarkable.
Where's the most shocking location that you've seen someone download? Which area?
China.
Surprised you?
I think
wow.
China. Yeah, I'm like, who's listening to? And they're probably attempting to learn English.
Yeah. That's true.
So, yeah, but I've had guests who, and I'm guessing, could you correct me if I'm wrong, there are many Americans in China as well.
So there's, in the cities, there's more, like I spent 4 weeks in China and I interacted with literal Chinese people probably 2 or 3 times in the circle of my friends, because it's very easy to be in an expat bubble. So there are those, and then when you come out of the city and you see people and you can't see any signs in English because it's basically Chinese.
Yeah. So yeah, we have those downloads there, and there's cool. Small islands. Yeah, there's small islands, a ton of small islands that are US. I didn't even know it was US islands, but on the eastern side out there that I can't remember the name. But yeah, there's this one guy I interviewed. He's originally from there, but he's living in LA. And we saw, I think his podcast went to the most downloaded in that month.
Wow.
We saw a peak of almost 5,000 downloads. And it's that village concept, right? He shared it.
Yes, yes.
But Pauline, for me, the value, and I'm fascinated by it, is my voice just reached that other part of the world. And so far, my experience has been where my voice goes, I follow. So with the trip across the US and Canada, that's what happened, right? The most downloads were going on in North America, and that's where we went first, right? So I'm excited to see, if that theory proves true.
For folks listening who more than likely would have clicked because the title had to do with how to become a podcaster. For those who are thinking, you know what, I want to start my podcast tomorrow, what would be your number one tip to them? What would be the first thing you tell them?
So I would say go in with grace, because there's something I saw somewhere, I think it's in a movie, but it's one of those Netflix series, and the guy says, I think the woman says to the other woman, because she looks at herself in the mirror, and she said, there's not one person who doesn't look in that and doesn't see a flaw in themselves first. So getting onto the podcast and getting the editing done or listening to your own voice, wow, that could be very challenging. So exercise grace, understanding that the end isn't there yet and you're just starting. So go for it, get it done. It's the most challenging part, but be okay with it not sounding the way you believe it should sound. Get it out there and keep keep feeling forward.
That is amazing advice across the board, even if it's not podcasting. Because I looked at some of my proposals because we're celebrating 10 years next year. And I was just like, who hired me? Why did they even hire me with this awful proposal? And you just have to keep going because that's, Energizer Bunny had it, right?
Well done, though. Yeah, it's always great to have reflection pieces. And again, I was talking to a Swami. So I met a Swami. Hey, Pauline, hear this?
Go on.
There's this guy that I met at LinkedIn Local when I was there. His name is, it's slipping me right now. He was sitting in the front. He's a coach. John.
Yes,
right?
I know who you mean. Yeah.
Right, so I met John there, and I go into the middle of where I think is nowhere in Santa Cruz. This thing called the Calibri Center, and to meet Swami. Swami is the Swami. Yes, he's a Swami. So
Can you explain what a Swami is?
Yeah, I had to look it up. It's a holy person, I suppose, right?
It's like the equivalent of like a Buddhist.
Something like that, but on the Hindu side, I would say.
Yes.
Probably
Okay.
To the Hindu side, yeah?
Okay. Mm-hmm.
So I interviewed Swami because he was part of something called the EBC, Evolutionary Business Council.
Mm-hmm.
And he's in Trinidad, right? In this place. So I go to meet him, and I meet John there. And again, it just speaks to the power of a conversation. You're just sidetracking right there. But it was so cool because you were the orchestrator of him meeting me and then coming onto the podcast, and then they're both having a conversation. I was on his podcast, and he said, "Yeah, well, I was on his podcast too," and it felt really good to see the what happened right there. So yeah, just side note.
My projection, because I see nothing happening while I was in China. I was very proud. Even Barbados continues to shock me in their way to engage. And I wasn't even there, so people meeting people always warms my heart.
Yeah, and again, the core of who the leader is really transcends, right?
Yeah.
The heart of who you are really is amplified in the people that join. So yeah, and again, we could go into more stories of people that I met that in LinkedIn Local and how that turned into business. So,
yes.
done.
It's Pauline here to let you know about my company because I have to. This is a marketing expense and my accountant says I have to. So yeah, if you care about AC Marketing, go to acmarketingcaribbean.com. If not, just keep listening to the podcast. Thanks,
We're shifting over the gears to talk about the Caribbean, right? Because that's part of the mission, the vision when it comes to LinkedIn Local events, bringing Caribbean people together and that conversation about community, because back in the day, you used to call it village, right? It takes a village to raise a child, but nowadays, because of how the linguistics have evolved, we use community. And CARICOM was based on that. So I'm saying to you, Angel, tomorrow you have been appointed the head of CARICOM. What would be your first thing that you would do? What would you do?
I would start igniting the conversations and empowering the individuals who can have the conversations on that village level. So,
what does that mean?
Yeah, so it means I think that conversations aren't something that's happening within our communities. And I'm talking from my perspective. The community centers were there and there were activities there. And that's something that's no longer occurring because the format of what those things were for, it's not that applicable. And from a very minute perspective, for example, people want to learn how to code or learn HTML. And my community may be teaching how to sew, right? Or how to bake. So having the conversation with the people that are on that level, to have the conversation with those who require the things that they see as value for industries, or if not even industries, just for that entrepreneurial spirit to arise. That's what I would want to ignite, to have that these people both, again, ignite the conversations and empower it. So yes, you get the information, but then it's implemented. Right, who can we have that can teach these things? Because what I'm finding is a lot of times we look to leadership for getting things done when within our communities, there's this individualistic leadership that can occur starting from home. I keep my place clean, right? And then I could have a conversation with my neighbor about how I keep my place clean. And then probably my neighbor would do it as well.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm podcasting and I'm in this small village, and I'm guessing there are other people that can podcast. Now I need to begin having that conversation with others. Who's igniting that on a leadership level from a CARICOM perspective, though, to teach this? Because I've paid money to learn this, right?
Mm-hmm,
So who's empowering that? So that's, again, what I would want to start happening, to ignite those conversations on a community/village level.
I think that's a powerful way to end this conversation. So, Angel, where are people going to find you? Where do they go?
12minconvos is the easy way. So 12minconvos.com. If you love to spell, you could spell out 12-minute conversations as well. And from there, that would point you to everywhere that you can connect with me. You can always check out 𝐷𝐷𝐷𝐷𝐷𝐷𝐷𝐷𝐷𝐷𝐷𝐷𝐷𝐷𝐷𝐷𝐷𝐷𝐷𝐷𝐷𝐷𝐷𝐷𝐷𝐷𝐷𝐷𝐷𝐷𝐷𝐷𝐷𝐷𝐷𝐷𝐷𝐷𝐷𝐷𝐷𝐷𝐷 you'll find everything that you need. You'll find everything that you need there as well.
Well, Angela, it's always a pleasure to have a conversation with you. And we are all going to head over to 12minconvos.com. You can even type in my name. I'm there somewhere.
Yeah, search our episode. Yeah, real action in our episode.
I know, oh my gosh. I share things that even my parents know. I need to share that with them, actually.
Yeah, that's good.
I think that's the gift that you have. Thank you so much, Angel.
I appreciate it. Thank you very much for having me on your podcast, Pauline.
Thanks for joining us this week. Make sure to subscribe in iTunes, Google Podcast, or wherever you listen for your podcasts. Don't forget to join the community at our website, LinkedInLocalCaribbean.com. If you liked this show, you might want to check out our next LinkedIn Local event by following the hashtags on LinkedIn. Search for #LinkedIn Local Caribbean.